Welcome to Keep Traveling, Your African Story, the only podcast that shares the real voices and journeys shaping African tourism. I'm your host, Rael Zieve, and through my inbound tour operation, Keep Traveling, I've had the privilege of connecting travelers from all around the world with the magic of Africa. This podcast is my way of opening that world up to you, a place to learn about the people, properties, and opportunities that make travel across this continent so very special. Today I'm delighted to introduce somewhat of a different kind of guest. Her name is Diana Yu, and she is a publisher of the Just Wanderlust blog, who joins me to share her African story. Diana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I've read your blog and we've chatted a little bit offline. And today you're going to tell us about a country that not many people think about as far as a getaway in Africa, and that's Tripoli in Libya. And tell us, why do you think people should go?
So, first of all, I think Libya is an amazing country to visit. There's so many undiscovered parts of the country. Now, if you're going to go there, obviously, one of the main places where you're going to immediately kind of land is Medina Airport, which is right next to Tripoli. So no visit to Libya can be possible without actually stopping in Tripoli. And this is a capital city that I think will defy what you imagine when you think about Libya, which is part of what makes travel to Tripoli and a visit to Tripoli very, very unique and very, very special.
I think even though Gaddafi is somewhat history in Libya's past, people might still think that it's not particularly one of the safest countries to go to. So tell us first of all about how safe you were while you were traveling there.
This is a really great question, and it's probably the first question people think of when they hear that I've been there. So I know that there is a narrative that Libya is full of chaos, that it's not stable, that it's not safe if you're there, that there's militias everywhere. And what I will say is there is some truth to that, in the sense that, there's, they had some civil wars and the country's divided into like an East and West government. However, what I will say is that travel there is very controlled. And so as a traveler, you have to go with a tour and you have to have a guide. You also have a tourist police officer with you the whole time. And you also have, like, if you're an American, for instance, so I don't know all the nationalities, but I know for some nationalities, you also have to have like a bodyguard with you. The tour company provides all of these things. So it's not like you have to arrange it on your own. Now, sometimes people hear that and they think this must really mean that Libya is unsafe then, because you need all these extra people. But what I would say is, I think what they're actually doing in the country is trying to make it so that they can set up more sustainable tourism infrastructure. And they want to make sure that the tourists that go there have a really positive experience, which is why they're being extra careful and extra structured right now when people do show up.
So besides the fact that you had these security around you, did you at any time feel intimidated by the locals?
Absolutely not. And in fact, I would say, compared to many other countries that I've been to, where you might know, like, you go to some countries and there's people hustling you, trying to scam you. Hey, come to my shop. I have a great carpet to sell you. Let me show you this souvenir. There's like none of that in Libya, right? If you go to very, very touristed places, there's very often the worry that you're going to be scammed, that you're going to have to maybe bargain with people to get a good price on something you want to buy. That does not exist in Libya at all. It's like they leave you alone. And I actually learned it's a sign of respect for them to leave people alone. That's how they show respect. So even as a female, I never had to worry about, unwanted glances, people trying to harass me. There's none of that. So that's actually very nice and refreshing.
Do you think that was because you had that sort of extra security around you, that the locals understand why that security is there, so they know that you're a touristy group? So it's not that there's a physical sort of barrier or anything like that, but they sort of see you coming and they know not to mess with you guys.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm sure that plays into some of it. But what I learned about the culture there, and many, many Libyans have since reinforced this to me, is that even especially as a female traveling in this country that is very conservative, very Muslim, that the men, when they are raised in their families, they are taught to show a lot of respect to the women. And the way that they do that is actually to leave the women alone. So if I walked into a store, no one would say anything to me. And it's not just me, because other women would walk into the store, local women would walk into the store, and I would see the same non-engagement behavior, right? Which is that the men would only talk to the woman if she initiated the conversation first. And my guide also told me that in Libya, men are told and raised not to initiate conversation with a woman unless, she needs a lot of help, in which case, he's going to offer his help. There's also another kind of interesting cultural quirk that I learned when I was there. And I don't know if this is purely like a Libya thing, or maybe it's a more prevalent cultural thing in that part of the world. But one of the things they told me is that men are raised so that even when it comes to looking at women, they get one look and that's it. So the second look is not okay. You get one look, a quick glance, and then that's it. And it's funny because I shared this story with other women and they all came back to me and they said, if only men acted like this in our home countries, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Listen, even my wife allows me more than one look from time to time. So we've sort of covered the culture. Let's talk about the actual activities that you tried out while you were on that trip and give us some feel to what you actually did.
A lot of things you can do in Libya, but if we're talking specifically about Tripoli, it's a beautiful city that is right along the Mediterranean, right? So blue, shimmering, typical Mediterranean sea that you'll see there, turquoise water. When you go, you will see palm-lined streets. I already think is not what you think of when you think of Libya. Like, I'm not imagining palm trees there, but you'll have these wide boulevards with palm trees. You walk over to this giant square, pedestrian square that I believe was recently renovated, maybe in the last year or two. And what you'll see on the square is you will see locals just milling about, families, children playing, laughing on a little scooter, like in the middle of the pedestrian square. You will see what they call like the Red Castle there. So it's like an ancient fortress that used to be there. I believe Gaddafi gave one of his last speeches during the Arab Spring from the balconies of the Red Castle. And then when you walk through and visit the old town, because this giant pedestrian square, if you can imagine it, leads into these meandering alleyways that make up the old town. And what you'll see is you will see glimpses of daily life. You will see vendors kind of working on copper and things that they're building. You will see shop owners like selling bread. You'll see little cafes selling coffee and such. You'll see Roman ruins just in the middle of nowhere, because the Romans had a huge footprint along this, Mediterranean coastal part of Libya. What I think is especially beautiful about the Medina is when you walk through it, you will see a version of Tripoli that is not performing for tourists, right? So often in other countries that you visit, you're walking through the Medinas and it's beautiful, right? Of course, they're beautiful, but they know tourists go, and they've made everything up so that it appeals to the tourist gaze. In Libya, they don't get many tourists. In Tripoli, not many tourists. So you're seeing a real slice of Tripoli life when you're walking through the Medina. And I just find that incredibly special and beautiful.
Now, you talk about, walking through the alleyways and everything like that. Did you find that Tripoli or Libya in itself is becoming a little bit more cosmopolitan? They're starting to become a bit more sort of first world and appreciating other cultures?
It's hard for me to weigh in on that because I don't know what Libya was like before I was there, in honesty. So I can't really compare and contrast. I know that in the media, there's a narrative that it's not developed, right? But the version of the Libya that I saw today, and I was recently there just a couple of months ago, got very beautifully like bourgeois parts of town. There is a wealthy part of town there. There's this beautiful Medina. There's high rises that they're building. I mean, there's literally a part of the Mediterranean that I drove by. I think it was along the Corniche where they're selling like luxury apartments over there. So I feel like when you go, your brain kind of breaks because they don't show us this part of Libya, but it's thriving. And yes, there's issues in the country, but there's issues in any country that you go to. But I think with the rich history that's there, with all the ancient cultures that I've passed through, like we're talking Romans, the Greeks, the Ottomans have all had significant impact. The Italians was colonized by Italy. It actually just makes it a very unique and special, fascinating place to go visit.
What kind of person would you suggest, or if somebody's going to Tripoli in Libya for a week, let's say, what should they be looking forward to seeing? Obviously, it's a major city, so we're not talking about wildlife and things like that. So what can they expect to see and experience in that sort of week period that they're there?
So if you've got a week, you can definitely see more than Tripoli. So I'll say that just to be transparent, because Tripoli itself is probably like a day. We talked about the old town that you can meander. There's a more modern side of town that you can also walk through with shopping and all of that good stuff. I went to a fish market that was also in Tripoli. The fish market is where the fishermen bring in their daily catch, and you can kind of walk through and see what that's like. And it's going to be very similar to other fish markets around the world. However, at this fish market, you can then buy fish, bring it to a restaurant that's at the market, and they will cook up some of the freshest seafood that you will ever have in your life. I am still thinking about the Libyan shrimp that I had. I will tell you, you will not find shrimp that big anywhere else in the world. I've been to 100+ countries. The Libyan shrimp is like bar none. It is elite. It is insanely flavorful with no seasoning on it. I have no idea how or why it's like that. And it's about the size of your palm. I'm not even kidding when I say it's that big. And I was told that the shrimp is like that because the Libyans cannot fish deep sea in the Mediterranean. They just don't have the capabilities for it. It was actually hard for them to get the shrimp, which is why the shrimp grow so big there. So you can go to the market, sample some of the freshest seafood you'll ever get. You can also go to Leptis Magna and Sabrata. These are Roman ruins that you barely will ever hear about in media. However, they are some of the best, most insane, most intact Roman ruins you will ever find in the Roman world. Each of those, you can probably spend like a day trip visiting either of those ruins.
Okay, so we're really talking about people that are interested in historical facts or historical surroundings, like you've spoken about the Ottoman Empire, etc. We're really talking and focusing on those type of people are really going to enjoy a trip to Tripoli, right? Excuse the pun.
Yeah, I think someone who's into history for sure would love Libya because the history is so deep there. And I'm not just talking about the Roman ruins. Like if you go into the Sahara, they've got paintings etched in stone that's 8,000 years old. So there's some really deep history there. But someone who's into some of the Roman history, the Greek history would love it. Someone who's very much into cultural experiences, I think would really love it, especially if this person also really likes food to be part of their travel experience. I think they'd get a kick out of Libya as well.
You keep mentioning the food, and I can see you drooling at the mouth a little bit. Tell us, besides the actual shrimp itself, what other sort of spices or tastes did you manage to experience while you were there?
Yes, the shrimp really did a number on me. The fresh seafood in general, like just really, really good and fresh barbecued fish they have there. And what's amazing is, I mean, you can get barbecued fish in a lot of places, but I don't know what it is about their seafood. It seems like you don't need much seasoning, if any. And it just tastes insanely fresh and delicious. I mentioned it was colonized by Italy. And so Italy actually left a big mark on their cuisine. They've got a pasta there that's really, really good. They call it macaroni, but it's like penne. I had it at the seafood market. They mix it in with fresh seafood. It's flavorful. It's almost like a thick stew kind of flavor with some tomato sauce kind of mixed in, but it's just very hearty and very, very delicious. And you can get pasta in a lot of other places in Libya as well. I don't think people normally associate Italian food with Libya, but it's there. I also had some really, really good lamb dishes as well. Couscous, lamb, very typical kind of Northern African dishes are there. They just put their own little spin on it. Just delicious.
Let's just talk about the actual cost to some of these things. People are always interested in how much a decent trip like this is going to cost. So what should people try and budget at? Let's take the airfares out of the scenario, but, staying at a really nice place, eating the shrimp that you keep talking about, doing all those different activities. What do you estimate that people should budget to?
Because you can only travel to Libya on a guided tour, right? If you travel there for a few days, that'll get you maybe Tripoli and some of the ruins. You could probably do that for under $1,000.
If you had to choose one particular word and describe your time in Tripoli, what would that word be?
Oh, that is such a good question. And no one's asked me that question yet, so I feel like I need to think about that.
I like to come up with good questions from time to time.
It's a good one. I want to say it was refreshing. It's refreshing to see a side of a country that you never get to see in media. It's refreshing to get to experience just pure generosity and hospitality from the people that are there. I've literally had nothing but wonderful interactions with Libyans. They are so nice, so generous. They don't deserve the way the media has, kind of painted their country. I think it was refreshing to get to experience and walk through Roman ruins that no other tourists are there. When do you get experiences like that? You're definitely not going to get that romping around Italy, right? And looking at ruins there. And these ruins are fascinating because they are so intact. When they tell a side of history that we often don't hear about. To go through Tripoli, meander around, and get to see a place that isn't built up for tourism, I think refreshing is the word I would pick.
Okay. Because you travel so often, what is it that's going to take, and I'm assuming there's still places that you haven't been to, what is it going to take for you to get back to Tripoli?
I want to go back. I saw the kind of western part of Libya. I am very keen on going back to see the eastern part. The eastern part, you've got very turquoise Mediterranean waters and beaches, and you've got very, very cool Greek ruins and some more natural landscapes, waterfalls, things like that I didn't get to see on my trip. So I am keen on going back to see the eastern part. I also want to go back and visit the western part of the country. That's where the Sahara is, deep Sahara, where it borders Algeria. They've got some amazing landscape there, Saharan landscape, that I didn't get to see on my first trip. So I'm actually keen to go back because I actually think there's just so much to explore. And they're still trying to open up tourism right now. So you're getting pockets of the country that are more accessible and easy to see. I know for certain there's other parts already that are going to be worthwhile.
Well, that's very interesting to know that after you've been to so many places, you want to go back there particularly. That's great. Diane, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated your time and learning a little bit more about a place that is off the beaten track. Thanks for your time and energy today.
Thank you. It was fun chatting.
What an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Diana, for your sharing your story and for everything you're doing to grow African tourism. Don't forget, every week we feature fantastic prize giveaways from some of Africa's most beautiful lodges, camps, and travel partners. You could win your own unforgettable getaway just by listening, subscribing, or visiting www.keeptraveling.africa/podcast. Or read more about today's guest by scanning through the show notes of today's episode. Don't forget to follow Keep Traveling on social media for the latest episodes, stories, and travel inspiration. I'm Rael Zieve, and this has been Keep Traveling, your African story. Remember, a few years from now, you won't remember how much it cost you, but you'll always remember the memories you made. Keep traveling.